You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Welcome to On My Block Podcast. It's a Green Bay Packer podcast with myself, co-host Ahman Green, along with my good friend and pal Mike Wall. Mike, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. Glad to be here on week one here in the NFL season. Finally.
Week one NFL season upon us. But then first weekend of some college football games, I was like, what is going? It was some good stuff out there. Interesting calls.
I saw the greatest line I read this weekend on like social media was
right.
It was like the greatest thing about college football is you can be at the highest of highs or be questioning whether or not you should hire Urban Meyer as your next head coach within like a split second. You know, I was like, dude, that is actually that's a perfect summary of how, like, especially that LSU. Listen, we'll probably talk about the LSU game later, but
yeah,
I couldn't have been happier. I've never rooted for FSU. Yeah, I'm just not an FSU fan. I was really hard for those. That was a phenomenal ending. What a phenomenal ending to a college.
It was. But yeah, like you said, we'll get to that later in the show here. But we're getting started with our Packers, and actually, I'll be handing it off to you for the read here for Bet Online, our show sponsor that's been helping us out here.
Yeah, Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to wager all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. So head to BetOnline or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet using our promo code BELIEVE50. That's BLEAV 50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's get to Vikings week. Let's go.
I know. What's the line on Vikings and Packers game? Do you know?
That's a good. I'll look it up while we're going through this right now.
Perfect. So let's get into this first one. So we're talking about Kevin O'Connell, the coach that was under McVay. So how does he integrate with some of the incredible weapons that we know the Vikings have? Jefferson, KJ Osborne, Adam Thielen. They all had great camp, and then Dalvin Cook is back. And as we know, when he's healthy, he'll play. And we know he plays beat up too. I remember a couple of years ago, or either last year, he played up. I think he had a separated AC joint. He played. He didn't know a difference, and he was running the ball. So, what do you think how he's going to use all those weapons that he has offensively?
Well, so yeah, we talked about he's from McVay camp, and it just seems like now for the last 3 years, if you had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay, if you're part of his staff, you're going to get a job at Shanahan Tree, I think, more broadly speaking. Mm-hmm. And so but you have to look at Kevin O'Connell, and for all the success that he's had, the truth is the last time he called plays was when he was with the Washington Commanders in 2019. They were a 3-13 football team. Okay, right. So we have to figure out how he does use what honestly are really good weapons. You know, probably one of the better skill position wide receiver, tight end, running back groups that you're going to find in not only the NFC North but the wider NFC. So I think on paper this is really a fun matchup, I think, for us to look at from how are we going to deal with, questions. Is Alexander going to travel with Jefferson or Thielen? Who do you think is the primary problem?
Right.
Do we have to split are we just trying to split the secondary in half and just try to cover all those guys and basically say, their run game is not going to live with our defensive line or our box 7 players. Mm-hmm. So it's just, for me, it's going to be, that's the matchup really is, I mean, ultimately we'll get to it in trench warfare, but the matchup really is, it is these skill guys, but it's, can the Packers afford to play too deep or 4 shell or whatever against this really elite level wide receiver unit? Do we have the manpower up front to stop the run game?
Basically, can it get away with it?
Yes.
That's basically what you're saying, because as you say, you got Jefferson, you got Thielen, and now you got KJ Osborne, and like you said, tight end group 2, Irv Smith Jr. that can then really, run routes, and they have that experience together because they've been together since Zimmer's coaching staff, and that was 4 or 5 years already. So they got that under their belt. And then you throw in a Dalvin Cook who can catch the ball like the backfield. So it's going to definitely test this defense. And to your one point about, is Isaiah going to travel with Thielen or with Jefferson? I think that's what the first 15 is for. Then you find out, because I think defensively you should be able to do that, test some coverages out, see what's working. And obviously, as the guy throwing the ball is going to read up on that real fast. He's like, oh, it's cover 1 or it's cover 2, man, or something like that. And he's going to try to pick them apart or use that to his advantage because what his knowledge is, being a quarterback for as long as he's been.
That's true, but there's kind of two sides to that, right? One, do the Packers feel like Alexander is that level of shutdown corner that he can travel? I mean, it's probably Justin Jefferson if it's anybody, right?
Right.
Can he travel with Justin Jefferson and shut him down? And then are the Vikings either A, do they have a plan for that? B, does Kirk Cousins think he can throw? I mean, Kirk Cousins, does he think he can throw Jefferson open against the air? Or are they very comfortable? Okay, hey, listen, if you're going to take away that side of the field, a la Deion Sanders, then we're very happy with Thielen. We're very happy with our running game with Dalvin Cook. We're very happy with the other weapons that we have on offense. We're very happy in the slot with KG Osborne, maybe versus Rasul.
Mm-hmm.
And you start looking at other places. If you have a Jalen Ramsey, right? If you have your back in our time, if you have Ellis Island or Revis Island.
Yeah, Revis Island, yep.
Earl Revis. If you have a guy that can take away a third of the field, half of the field, it's a complete game changer. And Jair Alexander is one of those guys coming, I think, into last year before his injury. Mm-hmm. He's one of those guys you start having that conversation with. So it's like, for me, strictly from a matchup standpoint, because you know Alexander wants that matchup.
Yeah.
Right. If he's
a competitor. He wants it.
He's kind of alpha dog. He wants that matchup.
100%.
So I'll be super interested to see if they give it to him.
Yeah. I mean, I would want it. If I'm a defensive back, I'm a linebacker, I want that matchup because then, it's best against best. I know where I stand if I win or lose against that player that's coming downhill, offensively, running back or wide receiver wise, or even tight end wise. So the next one here on paper, you said this might be the best set of non-QB skill position players for the Packers have to play all season, in terms of this matchup with the Vikings. So what do you think this group does better than other teams?
Yeah, and we're kind of talking about it, right? They have two what we would call elite level. Adam Thielen is an elite level receiver. Jefferson and Chase 100%. Are battling right now for probably the best young receiver in the National Football League. Yeah. Dalvin Cook is a bona fide star in this league who just happens to be, first of all, they haven't had a good offensive line, and they haven't, they're playing in a division that's been dominated by one team for a decade. Forever it seems like. So he doesn't maybe have and he's in Minnesota. He doesn't have the notoriety, but he is an elite level running back. So they have guys that we talk about beating you at different levels. I don't know if they have a tight end that's a game changer, but junior, but I mean, he's not yet. But when you talk about levels, they have people, whether you're looking at KJ or Thielen in the slot, whether you're looking at Justin Jefferson deep, whether you're looking at Dalvin Cook out of the backfield, they have people that can beat you in every level. When you have that, it's really going to stretch the width and the depth of your defense. And listen, from an offensive standpoint, what are we looking for, AG? We're looking for softness. We're trying to find softness, either as in mentality, hey, we're going to give up this, and so we'll just exploit it, or we're literally looking for people who are playing off coverage, a linebacker who's playing an extra half yard deep, a defensive end who's reading instead of attacking. We're looking for those situations, and when you have all of those skill positions that have such talent, then from a defensive standpoint, there's going to be either scheme adjustments or literally mental breakdowns or cognitive breakdowns with individuals that make them a little bit softer than they would be on a normal Tuesday or Thursday. And now we can exploit those matchups. So for me, that's when you have talent at the skill position, how does it translate? It really translates into softness in some of the other positions on the opposite side of the ball.
100%. I agree. Yeah, just finding those little holes, like you said, those positions that guys you can see maybe they're not quite physically up to par. And you see that, you find that out real fast in the first 5 plays of a series. And then you be like, hey, you come back to the huddle, you communicate to your teammates, hey, man, this guy's already breathing hard, or he's taking an extra step wide before he comes inside, something like that. So you give those tendency away. Guys do it sometimes unknowingly, and then then they find out, oh, man, this is going to be a tough game because now they have to adjust to now what the player they're going against has found out about them. Like, oh man, I didn't get good conditioning in this training camp or this offseason. Now it's showing. Now I'm about to get my butt kicked for 4 quarters. So
that's a great point. And and the fact that a lot of these guys, like I watched all the Vikings preseason games. You're not seeing a lot of ones in the game, right? So you kind of you're projecting a lot of this stuff. Not only you're projecting Kevin O'Connell's real offense. In week 1 that we're not going to see. Very vanilla
for everybody.
Right. But you're also projecting, hey, what is this going to look like from a personnel standpoint? How are these guys going to fit into that offense? We know that we've seen a lot, especially on offense, we've seen a lot of these guys as far as our matchups. But AG, you and I have both been in the game where you get punched in the mouth the first play of the first series, and the rest of the game you're like, it's on your mind. It's in the back of your head now. And as you get older and you become a more confident player, you accept that as a challenge. But for a lot of young guys, if I give up a sack in the first series, I'm kind of thinking like, oh God, man, this can go from a bad game to like an epically awful game with one more sack.
Right.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So there's always that stuff in the back of your mind that plays into this.
Yeah. So we got Jefferson, who's a young player, but very confident in his game. So if he goes, obviously not if, but when he goes against Zaire, and Zaire obviously gets a pass deflection or maybe gets an interception, for him, he's going to bump up a notch. He's going to be like, all right, I'm going to work hard to get open and I'm going to fight off of him because they might get physical in that nature. But for any young player on that Viking squad, offensively or defensively, they, like you said, get sacked, then that's going to be a issue and obviously be exploited right away with that defense, or with the defense or the offense.
And I think a lot of that probably happens more inside the box where bad things happen. Like in other words, like if you let's say you drop a long pass in the first quarter, or there's like I think for skill guys, a lot of times because like a touchdown's worth 7, right? It's just like fantasy football. You can get 10 yards and get a point, or you can score a touchdown and get 7 points, right? So it's like the value of your big plays is so much greater than maybe you dropped a 5-yard out. Maybe you missed a pass you shouldn't have missed, but they know that if they make the big plays, then the game's going to really turn out the way they want to. So you have it's a different kind of not confidence, but it's a different kind of a perspective on the game than maybe some of the guys inside where it's like, man, I'm getting run over. Like I got to do something different. The coach is on the sideline ripping me a new one. We got to change our whole scheme because I can't hold up on the double team if I'm a defensive lineman. Like the mentality the perspective is a little bit different. And that's the part of the game I think we all really appreciate.
Yeah, it's a mindset that you got to have, and so we brought this up at the beginning, but with Zaire traveling with Jefferson, what are scenarios that could come out of there for both players if it's a situation like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, if Zaire, it just basically comes down to, are they going to create situations where they put him on an island, Zaire on an island, if they or if, from the Viking standpoint, okay, well, you want to travel with Jefferson, all right, we're going to split him out to the right. We're going to put everybody over to the left. We're going to see what you got. We're going to check your whole card.
Yep.
We're going to see if you can cover them, if you can really cover them 1v1. If their offensive line can hold up, which I'm not sure they can. Can they hold up?
That's been a problem.
Can he win on the slants? Can he win on the sluggos? Can he win on the outs? I mean, can he win on these deep crossers or the corner routes? Can he hold up in that situation? And if the answer is no, then okay, now we're going to move him around. We're going to put him in motion. We're going to get Zaire moving so he can't press him off the line of scrimmage. And now we can create these. You can scheme for a little part of the game. You can scheme a guy open. If you need a play here or there, you can scheme guys open. That's what these offensive coaches that are becoming head coaches are doing it, because scheme is, being able to play call and design a really good scheme. It really is an art form,
yes,
right? Like I like to talk about technique because for me, it comes down to the player. And if I got good 2 scheme guys, then it really comes down to who can execute better, and that's the better technician. But drawing up a scheme, understanding how to get your best players open, like that is something that comes with experience. And honestly, if we're saying it right now, Matt LaFleur right now has more experience than Kevin O'Connell in that department. So I feel pretty good about that side of it. Obviously, our defensive coordinators, defensive coaches. Yep. So I feel good about that. But the other part of it too is okay. So we drafted Quay Walker first round, largely because he can turn our nickel defense into our mainstay. We might not have to go to dime.
It could be like a NASCAR, similar to what the Giants did with Justin Tuck, all that speed, Jason Pierre-Paul off the line of scrimmage.
So with Quay, can he? What is this? Is this kind of the big matchup? Is week 1? Is the big matchup really Dalvin Cook in the open space against Quay Walker?
I'll say that because if all those guys, say Kevin O'Connell does his homework, let's test the waters with Alexander. Let's test Alexander's waters. We're going to push them. First couple plays, we're going to go deep, and then we're going to run some slant routes to work it all. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, now let's work in the run game. So if Quay is not, coming down in the box, doing his job, covering, because he's going to be a guy that's going to be kind of the spy for Cook in terms of his size and range and speed, then they'll know if he could get in there and stop him and not get blocked, not get off his pursuit angle, not be overplayed, cutting back, because giving Dalvin Cook a cutback is a problem. Then if he does, then great. But if he doesn't, that's going to be a problem, because we know when Dalvin Cook is on and any run game is on, it doesn't matter what team. If run game is on along with the passes, then it's a problem. And then it's going to be a tough game in Minneapolis.
Well, and what happens what's the hardest transition from college to pro from from guys that are like from Georgia, is that 99% of the time, not only are they better athletes than everybody they're playing against, but all 10 of their teammates on the field are better athletes than the guys they're playing against as well. And so now, we've seen this a little bit early with Wyatt, who doesn't have the techniques playing too high and get pushed around a little bit, even though you see the athleticism, he just doesn't have the technical ability. So, and Quay Walker, that'll come. Quay Walker, the same thing. It'll come. But right now, I read somebody said, oh man, this guy is really doing a great job of getting off blocks and making plays. And I'm going, like 12 yards down the field, he'll get off the block. Like these are all things that take time.
Yep.
This is the new experience. You've got 320-pound guys who are very well coached, efficient, and professional coming at you now. It's a little bit different game than it was when you were playing against, even though the SEC is a great division, that's not professional. Now, AG, let's switch to the other side of the ball, though, because I think when we talk about getting rid, Devontae Adams goes to the Raiders. We have not seen Lazard. We've not seen Sammy Watkins. We've not seen Randall Cobb. We've just gotten inundated with the rookies and what the possibilities are, and Dobbs 100%. And Watson, and we're so excited. But really, the guys that are going to make the plays in this game, we think are, started with wide receiver 1, Alden Lazard. Now, Patrick Peterson is an all-time. I probably should have mentioned Patrick Peterson when I was talking about Revis Island. He's been that guy in this league, especially with the Cardinals. I don't know if he's that guy now, but it would be super interesting to see, is a guy like Patrick Peterson going to take Lazard out of the equation with our offense, or is this shine time for Allen Lazard? Is this a coming out party?
It's going to be interesting, because obviously we know Patrick Peterson's a little long in the tooth. He's been in the league. Let me check real quick here, or if you know right away.
Plus 10, right?
So he's plus. Hold on, it's popping up right here. I got it. He's been in the league. Okay, he was born in 1990, so he's over 30, or he's around 30 something, 31, 32, 33. Yep. So yeah, definitely long. He drafted in 2011. There you go, 2011. So yeah, he's been in the league 10 plus years. So my thing is, when I see that matchup, I'm looking at, because he's not really, he's typical DB size, 6'1", 198. And we know Allen's size, 6'2", 6'3", 225. So that right there says, okay, is there going to be an advantage because of size and experience that Lazard has gained being on the Packer on roster and lineup, watching Devontae, learning from him, being in Jacksonville, learning from receivers and DBs, Jalen Ramsey when he was in Jacksonville? Or will the age and then experience and then knowing how to get to the right spot at the right time as a DB, will Patrick Peterson take over there? Because speed and quickness is still there, because obviously he's the starter.
Yep. Will
he be able to just use that knowledge to get to spots before Allen gets to a spot because of the size, the difference in ability? So that's my question. I'm gonna watch on Sunday to see how that goes, because if that goes either way, if it's something where Allen can find out, oh man, I can overpower him, let him grab me and then just manhandle him and then push him off on my breaks, then you got a problem. Then Aaron could just go to him, because he know from a size wise, he's going to give that arm like that, get that little space enough where you're not getting a pass interference call, but using that body, okay, grab me, because I was like that. Grab me as a linebacker, but then I'm gonna shove off and push off and get open and create that space, and then boom, I got a quick second, I'm wide open. So that's going to be that's going to be a nice little story between him, Allen, and Aaron Rodgers in that backfield, and how that throwing the ball out of the backfield to Allen to see where it goes.
Yeah, what's the first thing that goes? It's not your mind, it's your body, right?
It's your body. That's why I said that.
Patrick Peterson is going to be. He's going to probably be able to read the routes that Allen Lazard is running. He has that kind of experience. He's that kind of player. He's a Hall of Fame player. The question is, can Allen Lazard, like you said, can he get into his body? Can we turn this into a physical matchup and not a technical professional matchup? Like, can we turn it into more of a, hey, I'm tenacious, I know what I'm running, I'm confident, but I'm really going to be physical with you today, because I don't think you can keep up with me physically, but I know you can keep up with me upstairs, and I know technically you're going to be able to keep up with me, because that's the kind of player that you are. I have that kind of respect for you. So That's going to be an interesting matchup. Obviously, being able to see where Sammy Watkins comes out, what role Randall Cobb plays. We're going to get into it.
It's going to be interesting how Matt uses both of them, because they're both similar in age and kind of ability. I think Sammy has a little bit more speed than Randall Cobb.
He's traditionally a burner. I mean, Cobb now you tell me. I would say if anyone's going to play slot of those guys, it's going to be Randall Cobb.
They're probably going to start off with him because he's been here, he's came back, and he's been here previous years. But once things get rolling, it's going to be interesting after a month of football to see what happens in October, because then you'll start to see change and separation between all the teams and players on that roster. So let's head on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, last thing is Sammy Watkins was a rising star in this league until injuries just started beating him up.
Yeah, hamstrings, ankles.
And you just start thinking, like, man, if he could, every team's taking a flyer on him the last couple of years, because if he could get right, he could take the top off the defense, man. I saw it with my own eyes when he was with the Bills. He used to just beat us up in Miami.
Exactly. He has that speed element. So let's head on down to the front line. Trench warfare, Mike, your neck of the woods. So I hand it off to you on this area, and then I'll chime in when I can.
Well, I think the first thing to talk about really is I would hope that our pass rush, our front four, our front five and base can more than handle the Minnesota offensive line. Mm-hmm. I think we see a version of this offense every day in practice. So there's a lot of eye discipline that goes with the McVay Shanahan style offense, but they've seen that, and they continue to see that every single day with Matt LaFleur's offense. So you look at their offensive line in particular. I think Garrett Bradbury, who was a first-round draft pick a couple of years ago, he played center for him. I think he's a good anchor in the middle, but there are question marks all over their offensive line. Darrisaw, their last year's first-round pick, is still, I would say, and he's certainly not a bona fide star at this point. He's got a lot to prove as far as he's going to be a reliable starter. And Ingram is a 2022 draft pick that looks like he's going to get penciled in at right guard. I have our matchup. The matchup of the week for me is Brian O'Neill, who's like me, a converted tight end that is playing right tackle for him.
Right, yeah.
Right, he played converted tight end from college. He plays right. He gets drafted. He plays right tackle for the Vikings.
Yeah,
and he's going against our main defensive star, game changer, guy you're going to have to game plan for, Rashawn Gary. I cannot wait to see how Rashawn Gary wrecks this game up, man. Like, how do you think that? I think that matchup right there is 100%. Going to be a complete game changer.
Man, I'm waiting to see, because all off season, and I say this, it's not obviously a real thing because it's virtual, but playing Madden 23, Rashawn Gary's coming off the top rope hot.
Yes.
And I've been playing with Baltimore for the last year on Madden. I was like, you know what? Let me go try some offense. Let me try a non-passing or a non-running quarterback, because Aaron doesn't run a whole lot. That's how I usually pick my teams. But I was like, let me try it, because the defense is top, as we know. Just from Madden standpoint, they got Rashawn Gary, an animal on the game. Okay, he causes problems for players that I play against when I use the Packers. Just know that, even though it's like virtual, gaming standpoint.
I could see, because we forget how good Kenny Clark was, an absolute phenom last year.
From the start.
Blowing up left guard, right guard, center. And so that line in the middle is, they've drafted some high draft picks. They have a couple first rounders, a couple second rounders in the mix. I just don't think they're ready for the speed of play of our first group. I think with guys like Slayton and Reed, the guys that we've brought in, Wyatt on third down, exclusively third down versus a 2022 right guard. Like, if I want to say, hey, Devontae Wyatt, we're going to make you a star in this week one. We are only going to line you up against their draft pick. It's going to be 2022 draft pick versus 2022 draft pick, right guard versus you, pass protection, third down and long. It's go time. If you sniff out a screen, go for it. Otherwise, put your ears back. Give us your best stuff every time. Like, I think he will gain an incredible amount of confidence if we put him in that situation. We're not even talking about Preston Smith. Preston Smith's going to win that matchup, but he does such a good such a good job in the run game, and then he kind of shows up with a couple pressures or sacks, but he's not the force in the pass game as much as he is to me, at least in the run game. Like I think he was an elite level run defender. But man, I think I'm excited to watch this group. The one question I have for you is, and we talked about it a little bit before, is we have obviously we haven't seen Devondre, first team all pro,
season,
right? Yep. Now Quay's penciled in as a starter, but you and I have talked about Chris Barnes and Isaiah McDuffie. Should they be playing in front of him? Dalvin Cook's coming to town. What kind of rotation do we? How much do we use those other guys? Given that Minnesota, historically has not been afraid to play 2 and 3 tight ends.
Right.
We don't know what it's going to look like this year, but given that they have an elite level runner and we need guys that can get off blocks and into tackles, do you think we see kind of a pretty fluid rotation aside from Devondre, obviously, but at that second linebacker spot?
I say we do, because why? It's game one, and you need to get in the rhythm first. You need to get the linebackers. I remember coaching my linebackers at the high school level and get it into a rhythm, just like with the running backs. They have to get in a rhythm of getting off blocks and seeing how the offensive line gets to them. And then once they get that rhythm, and then when the guy is hot, you'll notice that if he's making a lot of tackles, if he's in the scrum, every time the ball is when he's in the area of the ball, you know what? You stay in there until you're tired. And then when you're tired, that's when you tap yourself out. I'm going to leave it on the players to let me know. And if it's beyond that point where they're not saying nothing, I'm like, all right, come out for a series, but then get the young guys, get Quay Walker in there. Then don't say, okay, just because he's the first rounder, we want to see what he's going to do. I'm going to put him in now. No, I'm going to wait till my veterans that are proven to do their jobs and then lay the hat on Dalvin and let they know they coming from the same conference, the SEC, so they know you're gonna have to bang him because he's not gonna quit because you blast him a couple times or you get him in the backfield a couple times. That's not going to stop him. You got to continue to do it. I'll rest you. As a coach, that's my job. I'll rest you. Then we get you rotated with the young guys in certain situations, and then when you come back for 4 quarters, that fourth quarter when we're going to need you the most, if the game is tight, as we know it can get tight with Minnesota and Green Bay early in the season, then we'll have you ready to go and you reserve, because we did a good amount of rest time in the second and third and fourth, third quarters leading to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I agree with you. So the Packers are 1.5 favorites. It's going to be a close game. It usually is when we get up there.
Yep.
And gosh, if you had ideal scenario for me, it's like put Isaiah McDuffie and Chris Barnes. To start, as long as we're in base personnel, like he should be in one of those two should be in the game. And then if you want to put Quay and nickel, you have a package for him. You have certain things you want him to do. I think that's fair. This is a whole different kind of football than you've seen the last couple of weeks, because you might have seen spot first team players.
Yeah.
But you have not seen a first team offense with a first team quarterback, first team running game, first team play calling, intensity. This is like the preseason. Now we've talked about it. It is intense, but it's also like XFL level intensity as far as the talent is just not the same because you're not playing your ones at all anymore.
Exactly. And it's very vanilla, from a coaching standpoint. We already know coaching standpoint is like the basic stuff with no audibles, no adjustments, things like that, almost like an all-star game where you can't blitz and do all that stuff. But, they just test out because they have the rookies, first year, second year players that didn't see no time from the previous season.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, I would put him in, I'd make him a situational player, just like you said, kind of to get his feet wet and feel super. My whole thing is let's build confidence. Let's never ruin a guy by putting him in too early.
Yep.
Let's build confidence.
Coaches do that all the time.
Yeah, by doing things that hey, I know why it's going to beat that right guard in pass protection. I know it. I just tell you, I've seen them both play. I guarantee he'll win. You put him up one-on-one, he'll win. But you got to put him in situations where he doesn't have to get double teamed 4 times in a row, because he will lose that. He plays too hot.
And then confidence goes down.
Quay Walker, if they're running on first down, if they get into a big, a base package and they get that double team pushed back, he might drag a guy after a 12-yard gain, but we're not stuffing the hole. Isaiah McDuffie, Chris Barnes, we know Chris Barnes will stuff the hole. So for that reason, I want him to excel where he excels. And then as Quay grows, listen, we know physically, we know the pedigree. I'm sure he's I'm sure he's going to be a great football mind. I mean, the Packers do a good job of due diligence. I don't know the kid, but you have to imagine he's a football guy first. So he's got all of these tangible and intangible qualities, but all this stuff takes time. And the leap from even national championship Georgia Bulldogs to the Green Bay Packers versus the
Right.
Minnesota Vikings. That is a big leap, man. I just want to make sure these guys are ready and feel real confident about the role they're going to play in that win.
Yeah, and it's just a big thing because obviously you can't just come on the field game one unless the ability is totally astronomical because it's so technical on defense. You got to read the formations, you got to read offense alignment, alignment. And just to see where you can fit in on that defense and where you can make your play, and got to be patient. You can't just go and jump because you see something. You might get taken out of a play because that's the way the play is designed, is get you to see something, boom, then you're out. So what we got here next, Mike?
Well, let's go. Let's just talk about now on the other side of the ball.
Yep.
Maybe what's the biggest story? Obviously, is Z Smith.
He's there.
You get signed away. He is going to make a play this game. Guaranteed. Just write it in. First of all,
yes.
Bakhtiari is, I don't know if he's going to practice, what level of practice he's going to have, but I don't know if he's going to play this week. Like, if it was me with all of he's gone through, do I really want to put him on the turf up in Minnesota and blah, 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 in week one with 1 week of practice and get him to play against Z? Like, I don't want to do that. If I'm him, I want to play. If I'm the organization, I want to do what's best for him and probably best for us long term.
Yep.
I really don't want to see him out there week one. So we probably have Yash. The rest of the starters, we have JRJ and Myers, and then we'll see what happens. We truthfully don't know for sure what's going to happen on the other side. So I think Z's going to make plays. He's that kind of guy. And what'll be most interesting, when Z came, he came the same year as Coach LaFleur came. And I had people that I know inside the building tell me that the biggest impact that was made that first year, and the reason they were 13-3 and all these great things were happening, was that Z Smith was coming from Baltimore, and he was a leader, and he changed that locker room, and he changed the way people worked. Yeah, I mean, he was that guy. So if he infects the Minnesota Vikings with the same kind of belief and enthusiasm that he brought year one with the Green Bay Packers, that right there could be the difference in their season. And I just hope it doesn't, I hope he didn't. And I hope if he did, it doesn't manifest here week one, because on paper, I think we should absolutely dominate the box against the Minnesota Vikings from our offensive line, our running backs, Mercedes Lewis, Tunyon if he's healthy. And then Rodgers versus Kendricks. I think we absolutely have that one overwhelmingly on our favor.
Yeah, because I believe the last few years with Zimmer being the coaching staff, being the head coach, sometimes that lingers. That just don't leave right away. Depends on how serious or how hard Kevin O'Donnell and his new coaching staff has come in since day one of mini camps, and to flesh that out, because some of that doesn't just go right away from a player come out of them in terms of how things were going, how they were coached, how things were taught, how things were developed, how when you win, how the rest of the week go, how you lose, how the rest of the week go. We know Zimmer. We saw him. He was a tough coach. He was a tough love, maybe no love at all. He would beat the guys up mentally and physically, talking about, they need to do better. I'm not, making no excuses for him. I don't want to hear it.
See this guy or this guy?
Is that he's probably that guy.
Yeah, hey, Chachi.
No. Exactly. Yeah, but and for us, coaches like that is like we get it. Like, I could get that. I could live with that. But to players today, as we know, they can't. So that's going to be the question mark, is that feeling of Zimmer, is that feeling going to still pop up when they're in a bad moment? And then do they go in that same gameplay, that same mindset, coming into this game? Because it'd be like, oh man, here we go again. Green Bay's up 2 touchdowns in our place. Boom, boom, boom. But like you said, Z done a great. But it was a different culture here. So when Z,
but it was a Mike McCarthy culture.
True.
Now, remember,
Mike. It still was a winning culture though.
Well, okay. Let's be real. But let's be real honest. When Mike left, it's not like everybody was happy.
No, true. 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. You're right.
I think the word you're probably looking for is stale. At that point, it was a little bit stale, right? I mean, it's
stagnant. Yes, I agree.
They're winning in a bad division, but everybody was. The offense was stale. The feeling.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Vikings, we talked about on offense how they have players at every level. Vikings have players at every level on defense as well. Really think about. We talk about Zadarius Smith. You talk about Eric Kendricks, who's been a high level player.
Yep,
I don't know. I don't know if Kendricks is and then you have Peterson, you have Hunter Smith, right? I don't know if Kendricks is the elite of the elite to me, because as a lineman, I need a guy. You got to be able to take on a block if you're going to be considered elite. Like Ray Lewis is an elite to me.
I'll say Kendricks is a top 15 linebacker.
Yeah. Patrick Willis was Lofa. Those were elite because they could
those
lay
are those
the
guys.
hammer, right?
Yeah.
The other guys can like run side to side, and like I respect the value that they have for a team in a game. But you know, when we're talking, it's like, man, you either lay it or you can't. Jeremiah Trotter, he could bring it. Okay.
Yes, he was.
But
He was thick.
I'm going to give you 3 names of why we should win this game. Okay.
Okay.
Dalvin Tomlinson, Harrison Phillips, and Ross Blackrock. Those are their 3 starters inside.
I don't even know those guys, unfortunately.
And that's exactly why we should be winning this game. They do not have a guy inside that can threaten the pocket. So that means they're either going to have to manufacture pressure via safety blitz, via Kendricks coming in down the hole. And I think Anthony Barr is gone too, right? Yeah, Anthony Barr is gone.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, Jordan Hicks. Yeah, so you're missing that guy who used to be able to come, to bring some pressure as well. So for me, this is a situation where Aaron, I think they're going to move around Za'Darius. I think they're going to try to pick some spots and let him play. I think he does better when you stand up over a guard and let him pick with, like Danielle Hunter. Like, I think that matchup using those guys in tandem is a really, really good idea if I'm a Minnesota Vikings defensive line coach, because I just don't think guards can move with a guy like Za'Darius Smith. I think it's the same thing you were talking about with NASCAR and Justin Tuck. Guys like me can't move with guys like Justin Tuck. He just moves laterally too well. So you have real problems. And
that's a problem. Yeah. So looking up stats real quick. So Ross Blacklock, he was a 2nd-round pick to Houston Texans back in 2020. Harrison Phillips was a 2018 draftee, round 3 to Buffalo. And Dalvin Tomlinson was a 2017 round 2 draft pick to the New York Giants. So these all new guys to the. I don't know about new guys, but new guys to the roster.
I've seen those guys all play. I mean, I've studied 2 of them kind of in depth just because of different situations.
Right.
And I'm not saying look, they're NFL players. I'm just telling you they should. You shouldn't see a lot of pressure coming up the middle of the pocket with the guys that we have there. I don't care if Royce is playing. I don't care if Hanson's playing. I know the other 2 are super solid. They don't give up pressures, and I think we're going to be able to handle our business at the right guard position. So. If you give Aaron, what do we know about Aaron? Like, if you're going to give Aaron Rodgers time in the pocket and ability to step up, you would think that we're going to have a really, really good game, a game plan. And then the other question, AG, is like, we've got a wealth of talent at the running back position. So,
right now,
first of all, are we a run-first offense early in the season? And a lot of people are saying, this is part 2 of the question, a lot of people are saying A.J. Dillon's going to overtake Aaron Jones in rushing yardage for the season this year.
Well, they were neck and neck.
Tell me your thoughts.
I don't see that happening quite yet. I think he just got to get. I say AJ Dillon has to get a couple more. I say 1 more year of experience to be basically for confidence sake. He's not quite there. I say yardage possibility. There's a possibility because right now I think Aaron Jones was only 40, maybe 50 yards ahead of AJ last year. So it wasn't that far ahead, which. For me, like I said, it's just different seeing this running back committee, running back by rotation go on. But I don't see. I would say maybe a couple years from now, but not this year. It's still Aaron Jones is the guy. AJ's coming off the bench to spare him, but also he has his packages of runs and passes and screenplays that he has from the floor. But Aaron Jones is the main guy still at this point.
And then what about? I mean, listen, you can get on. I think it's very popular right now to say, well, Devontae Adams isn't there, so they're going to be a run-first offense. And then I think you and I kind of go, oh, yeah, but Aaron's still there. So I think we won't. I think we'll be an Aaron Rodgers first offense still. And these guys are going to get their carries.
And that's not a problem, though.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
Because the way that they run their offense and the quality that they have at all these positions, regardless if you're talking about a rookie in Romeo Doubs, you're talking about a guy who's like trying to resurrect his career in Sammy Watkins, or Lazard is trying to be a number 1 for the first time. Tunyon's coming back from an injury. We just have talent, and we have the best ball distributor in the entire league. So we're going to – and we have a good offensive line, regardless of Bakhtiari is playing or not, or Elgin's playing or not. These guys are still well coached. They're a good line. They're very solid technically.
Well experienced now.
Yeah, and they have confidence. Myers is coming to his 2nd year. So but most importantly, we have that dude. Like
Yeah,
we
that
have the
dude.
guy that
He's a bad man, as they say out
yeah,
there.
there's
He's a
just people
bad
in this
man.
league that are we call them force multipliers. You call it whatever you want. He just is like, he's like putting a 7 on the board or a 10 on the board against any team he plays, because he just does things that other people can't, right?
Yeah.
He sees things, he throws away the ways that other people are not capable of doing. And I just have the complete confidence that we might run the ball 25 times. He might have, he still has 30 passes. He goes 23 for 30 with three touchdowns, no picks, just like, average day at the office. And
that's for him. It is. And it's beautiful to be a part of and watch. So what's these matchups look like for you, Mike? You got some good matchups.
Yeah,
you kind of hit on them a little bit.
Yeah,
already.
I think the big matchups for us up front are the two tackles, assuming that it's Josh, and then I don't know what's going to happen on the other side. As far as is it going to be Roy? I mean, does Zach Tom see time this week? Probably not. But there's a couple different ways we could go with this. But I think if it's Royce in particular, that matchup versus Za'Darius or Daniel Hunter usually plays on the other side. He plays right defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
But I think those matchups are the important ones to watch for us, because if we can keep that pocket clean, Aaron Rodgers. And here's something for the casual fan, you may or may not know this, but with a guy like Aaron Rodgers who can scoot a little bit, and this happens with to some extent with a guy like Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, happens with the Lamar Jackson. Happens with guys that can break the pocket and run. Okay, the Josh Allen. A lot of defensive coordinators will game plan and tell their defensive linemen to build a wall, or to get up to the level of the quarterback and start to push in and collapse, and not try to run around the tackle and make that like strip sack play, because they don't want to leave that space. So if I beat you upfield and I'm going for the arm, okay, then Aaron's just going to go where you were, and I've missed out on an opportunity. And I might think I did a good job, but he's out the gate running for 15, or he's he's making the play longer, and we know that he's the master of the busted play. So they might get those guys upfield and just say, hey, it's time to bull rush. And so what do we know that means? That means that inevitably the pocket will collapse, but you probably have 3 or 4 seconds to throw the ball every time you snap it. And so it just depends on what we see. But I think that's always an interesting part of the game, to see what the coaches come up with. I've been on teams where I remember we were up in the Bills playing Tyrod Taylor, and they weren't really worried about him throwing. They were worried about him running and elongating the plays. And one of our guys was going against Deion Dawkins, and he thought that he could beat Deion, 5 times out of 10. And it was like, but he had to run up and just bull rush him at the top of the rush every time. He wasn't allowed to do any moves. And what happens is, about second quarter, your guys don't want to play anymore. Yeah, they're demoralized, because they're like, dude, I didn't come here. I don't get paid to run into a guy. I get paid to win. And so, can you get that level of buy-in? Like, who's the guy that's gotten that level of buy-in? Is Bill Belichick, right? But how does he do it? He usually gets guys that are on their second stint with the team, like guys that aren't star players. Right. To get a star player like a Za'Darius Smith to be like, hey, I want you to run up 6 yards and start bull rushing every time. You're not allowed to do any moves. I'm not saying they're going to do that. I'm just saying that happens against really good pocket presence guys like Aaron Rodgers, and something to look for.
Yeah, because that's important. Because getting those extra plays, extending the plays is a problem. It's a headache when the quarterbacks start doing that. So what's the second matchup here you got here?
Yeah, you tell me now. This is the Eric Kendricks versus, for me, it's for AJ Dillon. It's kind of our 2.0 running back, size and speed, versus a guy in Kendricks who's played at an extremely high level for a lot of years, more of a lateral speed guy. Dillon's a downhill back. When it comes into the third and fourth quarter, like, I see us having the advantage there. What do you see?
I definitely see the advantage, because I know Kendricks is not as heavy, obviously, just from physics. Just look at the size. I know AJ, he's 247, basically 250. Just say 250, and I think Kendricks is probably around. He's over 230, but in that neighborhood.
I would have guessed 235. Yeah,
I would say that, but I say from his knowledge and experience, his ability, his technique. He knows how to shed blocks real well. He's a good tackler, and he is a thumper too. But when it's something that we're taxing, where it's just getting pounded if a game becomes where it's like we got to depend on the run in the fourth quarter, if it's to that extent of a situation, then I'm gonna give it to you right now. AJ's in his third year now, and he's got that confidence in his game. So when they got to give him the ball to win the game, he's done that in situations since his rookie year. So I give it to AJ there on that, just on that standpoint of just size. and ability, because Dylan, you could be the best player in your position, but sometimes that size and weight will factor in, towards the end of that game, especially when you're just getting 3 yards on a cloud of dust and you don't even have to, you're just running out the clock. And for me, when I was in that situation, I put my shoulder down and just drug guys, because that's the mentality you have. I want to kill the clock and about making a big play. And they let AJ know that once he gets the ball coming, that if that situation arises in this game this Sunday, then yeah, it's a problem for Kendricks and the rest of that Vikings linebacker core. So I give it to AJ.
He's a fall forward guy now too, right? He runs. You talked about it at length last year. He runs behind his pads, and what maybe the casual fan doesn't realize is when we talk about a Kendricks, he's an elite level player. He's an all pro player. But the fact, and he might not miss a single tackle in this game.
Oh.
But if AJ can carry him for 2 yards, for 3 yards after contact, which AJ is more than capable of doing,
definitely.
Like for us, those hidden yards that we talk about, yards after contact, man, that is gold for an offense. That is absolute gold. That's usually the difference. Like that's one of those stats where if you really broke it down, the difference between winning and losing. Yeah. Those are one of those stats. It's like that makes all the difference in the world. And guys like you, but guys like AJ Dillon, man, they can really get that done, especially when guys get late, legs get heavy in the fourth quarter. So
exactly, it's a business. They start making business decisions. So, all right. So let's pause for a second.
Yep.
All right, we're back. So I didn't want to do that for the. We got I think an ad going in, another sponsor that we don't have to mention. They'll do it automatically. I just got to know the timestamp. Okay, 46:08. That's what it was. 46:08. All right, now we're on to Get Off My Lawn, and we had a lot of shagoolery, shenanigans, college football at its I say emphasis because it was Labor Day weekend. So we had college football since I think Thursday night all the way to Monday night, I think, if not Sunday night. And so let's start here where this one I understand it as well. So what we got, Mike?
Well, listen, we all know that college football now more than ever before, we're shining a light on that it is all about the almighty dollar.
Yep.
But having a 12 team, so recently, for those who don't know, they've decided now that the college football is going to go from 4, the expansion of the playoff is from 4, not to 6, not to 8, but to 12 teams. And I mean, let's just call it what it is. I know it was a closer game than the spread. But the Ohio State Notre Dame game was a 17-point spread. That was number 2 Ohio State versus number 5 Notre Dame. Did Notre Dame deserve to be number 5? If Paul Feinbaum says no, but who knows, right? It's a 17-point spread, which means to me that the 2 versus 5 game is barely worth watching if you're not like an Ohio State or Notre Dame fan.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Alabama versus the 12 seed is going to look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like
going to be bad.
That's just and it. Listen, I guess on the one hand, if we're being honest, it's better to have games that have any kind of meaning now that you have a playoff and a national championship than having like the Chips Ahoy Bowl that 2 teams go, but it doesn't really mean anything.
Exactly.
It's a reward, right? Like college bowl games for play. I'm just talking about from players' perspective and fans. It's a reward for having a good, hey, you did good enough. You went over this bar. You might not be playing for the national championship, but you can win a Chips Ahoy Bowl. Okay, great. You get to go over here and you get, it's fun. It's a reward for playing a good season.
It's an experience.
But all it is for the corporate is just to make money. So I guess from that standpoint, it's like, it's better that the games mean something. But the problem, at least for me, is all you're doing is you're adding, the college football season used to be 10 games. Then it was 11. Now it's 13. Now it's what? What's this going to make it? 17 games?
Pretty much.
15 games?
Because you got 12 teams, 3 rounds. So 3 rounds of playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah. So you have the 13. So 16, 17 games. Depends on the
So they're NFL players now. And I guess because they're getting NIL money, I guess that's the justification.
They're trying to balance out the scales because they know players somewhere is making a lot more money than usual.
But so now, the revenue, the dollar revenue, because the bowl games are worth more than a regular season game, the dollar revenue now is going to go and continue to grow. And I don't know where that money gets distributed, but at some point, we have to have some sort of separate. And this goes probably deeper conversation to NIL as well. Like at some point, there's got to be a separation between student athletes and professional athletes. And I don't know, I don't know what the answer is, but gosh darn it, man. Like if the Detroit Lions are going to play 17 games this year, I don't think Alabama should be playing 17 as well and having to do like a full load of semester studies. That doesn't make any. It sits wrong with me personally.
Yeah, that's definitely. I say having a college athlete hitting the limit of overwhelm or being overwhelmed in that as you bring that up at the end there. But yeah, it's to me, it's just I saw it. I just shook my head. I'm like, okay, let's see how they're gonna work this out. And they're doing it now, not letting it, go another year for 2024 or 2023, excuse me, and just trying to put it on players now. So it's gonna be and coaches and universities. So
I got one for you. I got one for you that's not in here. Have you been watching She-Hulk?
Yeah, yes, I've been watching She-Hulk.
Okay, now listen.
Where are you going with this?
I wanted so badly to watch She-Hulk and just go, man, I love this show. You know what I mean?
You wanted to like it, right?
I saw the first episode. I go, okay, I think I'm gonna like the show. I like the actor. I think it's like witty, a lot of witty banter. And then the third show, my son goes, you're not gonna like this. And he showed me this meme of Stan Lee rolling over in his grave because at the end of the show, Megan Thee Stallion and She-Hulk are twerking at the end of the show, and it's like meme of like Stan Lee's rolling over in his grave because like this is not what he intended.
Correct.
And I know like that's old head and everything, but man, I don't know what to make of these shows right now. I want to be a comic book guy so bad, and it just doesn't seem like they're playing the same game as I am.
Well, I would say this, Mike. The comic book is definitely different from what you see on Disney Plus or TV, wherever you watch a comic book show. The writers, directors, the people who are doing the TV or movie stuff, they have changed obviously changed little things. Because I'm pretty sure, for one, She-Hulk is my daughter, is Amani's age, my oldest daughter. So Megan Thee Stallion, excuse me. She wasn't around when She-Hulk was created in the comic book world, so there was none of this going on from a movie standpoint or from a comic book standpoint. Because even in the movies, if you watch Planet Hulk, if you watch that, they have in Planet Hulk, the movie, they have him getting married and having a kid. And it's Hulk. And it's like, even my wife was like, I can't watch it. I can't watch Hulk do that. That's that. I can't, he is Hulk. He doesn't have kids. He's married. I said, yeah, babe, you don't want to watch this. He is married.
There's just so many things there. Like I could dive into questions that I really don't want you to answer, I think.
We could do that offline.
Yeah, geez,
over some whiskey. We'll go there.
I think we both watched the LSU game.
I didn't watch the whole game, but I caught all the highlights. I saw the big mistakes from a team standpoint, special teams really, that did it in for LSU. But for the recruiting stuff that you mentioned here in the run of show, explain. I need to know. I have to know.
So everybody who follows college football knows that Brian Kelly was a 13-year coach at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was there that long. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's 13 years. And then he goes to LSU. He takes a bag, and then people get, hey, listen, good for you, right?
Yeah, great. Get paid.
Then he shows up at like a press conference, and he has this like made up accent all of a sudden, like he's from Louisiana. Oh, wow. Then people call him on it, and he's like, "Well, I'm from all over." And then he shows up in these recruiting videos where he's bringing these kids in, and they're they got all the music going, and he's doing like this, and you're just going like, what in the Sam hell are you doing? It just seems so disingenuous. You know what I mean? It seems so disingenuous. and so for that reason alone, I'm like, well, I'm gonna root against him because that's ridiculous.
I did not know that.
Okay. And the best part about this whole thing is that the only guy, because who's the fellow that took over at Notre Dame that everybody loves? He was a defensive coordinator. What's his name?
I can't think of his name, but I know the guy. I know the guy.
The coaches
I don't know his name.
The players, the coaches, everyone like this. This is the guy. Like they can't be happier about having.
And he was a former player too. So.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the only guy that went with Brian Kelly was the special teams coordinator. The only guy that went with Brian Kelly to LSU was the special teams coordinator.
Marcus Freeman.
Marcus Freeman. There you go.
Yeah.
So who had the two muffed punts, which are not his fault, right? That happens.
Yeah, that does happen.
Punt, block, field goal, block to lose the game.
And it's the same edge. It was the same side.
Karma is a real son of a bitch sometimes, AG. Just unbelievable.
And I watched those 2 block kicks, and it came from the our left side, from the offensive left side.
Everybody was like,
Man,
it looks like the Packers last year.
there was probably some memes and gifs of that. For sure.
There was
We
a lot
know
of similarities.
we know how these fans get. They get very creative, and it's
Yes.
entertaining to see these memes. So, man, what's up with this last one, though? This
All right,
last
so
one,
this-
I was like, what the?
This one. So this one is. Listen, we all know that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player to ever live,
Yes. 100%.
and they did that whole The Last Dance. And
Yep.
Scottie Pippen did not like how he was portrayed in The Last Dance. And I think he was
Really?
trying to sell a book. So he kind of came out. He's kind of saying how he was just as good as he said some stuff that he probably shouldn't have said, right?
No, 100%.
And you know how this goes, right? You talk trash to Kobe, Kobe's going to get you. You talk trash to MJ, MJ's going to get you. You talk trash to Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Ali's going to get you.
Exactly.
The best of all time, they find a way to get you. Okay?
They do.
Scottie Pippen should not have spoken out on MJ because now MJ's son was seen out on a date with Scottie's ex-wife. And that is how you kill another man.
Wow.
That's it. Throw the shovel away. Grave's done. Jump on in.
Dig it. He
Joe's
dug it,
over.
though.
Drop the mic.
That's why I don't trash talk. That's why I don't. If I got some beef against somebody, we're handling this face to face. I'm not making no headline clickbait out there. No, I'm not doing that. I'm just be a man about either suck it up, don't mention it, or I go to him face to face. I'm not handling this through text message or social. Definitely not social. And you would think these are old school guys. These guys are older than us. And so you would think they would understand that. But like you say, he probably selling the book, getting his name out there so people could be aware of it, stuff like that. But
Even if Scottie Pippen had to give up half his money in the divorce, there's no amount of money he could have made from a book deal that is worth the comebacks that are now available to Michael Jordan.
100%.
Anytime Scottie Pippen says anything about him,
No.
get
You
off
can't.
my lawn, bro. It is not worth it.
It ain't
You know
happening.
what? Go find a country, an island that does not have internet, and go live there.
Because
it's
MJ, I met him a few times, hung out with him. I'm very fortunate, and he is a competitor. And knowing him and seeing him in other stuff on videos, I watched The Last Dance. I watched every episode. Every opportunity they see each other, he will bring it up. I 100% know that. He will never let Scottie not know what went down. He just gonna always give him that look and then say something. I know it. Oh man, I'm sorry. I really hate to hear that because they both were my guys growing up.
But it's pretty funny.
It's hilarious. Oh my god. Oh well.
We did Hero of the Week last week, and look, I've never sat through a tennis match in my entire life.
Really?
I've never been able to just sit there and watch 3 hours of tennis. I've never been able to do it. For the first time in my life, U.S. Open, Serena Williams, third round.
Mm-hmm.
I sat there and watched it, and you got to be in absolute awe of Serena Williams, man.
Yeah, I have been.
And everything she's like, I've watched. I mean, you've obviously watched highlights. You watch an hour here, 45 minutes there.
Yep, exactly.
I sat there just watch TV. Man, she is such on so many levels. What she's done for the sport, what she's done for women's athletics, what she's done for branding, what she's done for, what she's done for the city of Los Angeles. I mean, holy hell.
Yep.
Is there a more impressive athlete in the last 30, 40 years, 50 years than Serena Williams or the Williams sisters? I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know either. I would have to sit and look it up and research it, but it's awesome to see what they did. I don't know if you saw the movie about their dad and how he raised them. Was it King Richard?
Yep.
But I watched that too. And actually, we both lived it during the time because as we got, to college, they were just getting started. When we got to, the pros, they were in their careers and full bore, going down and just breaking records, tennis records, championships, grand slams. And it was just, to me, it was like, this is cool to watch. I'm glad to be seeing this. When I would watch them, like you said, I wouldn't watch a whole match, but I would watch a half hour of a match or 45 minutes or an hour and be like, they got no chance against them too. If they're doubles or single, it didn't matter. It was just impressive. And it showed in the movie what as an upbringing, King Richard, their dad, what he was implanting in them, or what they had to be when they grew up, beyond just being tennis people. They were just more for the world and community to learn from. And that's what you see. And I love it. And I actually got the fortunate time one year, went out to the ESPYs when Amani was like 10 to meet, and she met, and we were just sitting in a little area where we went to the ESPYs. It's like a post-party ESPY. And Amani's there with me, and she got a chance to talk with Serena. And I always ask her, I was like, you remember that conversation with Serena? She's like, yeah. I said, what y'all talk about? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, but it was just cool that she does remember and just knew who she was. She was like, oh my God, you play tennis, and I run track, but I watch you, and my dad watches, makes me watch you. I'm like, exactly. You got to have inspiration somewhere. It's great to watch them and to know that she's keep chugging along and do the physical stuff that she's been through in the last 2 years, from having her kids and still getting after it on the tennis court. This all, I say, for me, this inspiring, keeps me rolling too as well.
She just the amount of physicality. I mean, everything else, there's no doubt about the talent, the technical ability, the mental strength.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said, like, I don't know if I agree with this 100%, but somebody said that, tennis, the closest thing to boxing is tennis. It's like tennis is boxing without hitting each other, which I think the hitting part's a pretty big deal. But the idea that you get, it's just you and this other person. There's no timeouts. There's no coach there in the corner. You got to just deal. You just got to figure it out. The mental game that is part of that sport, I think, is so huge. And to be so good for so long, to go through so many different things. And honestly, to be somebody who was never really embraced by her community, and I mean the tennis community, because she was an outsider at the time, to never really be embraced for, I don't know, a decade, until everyone wait a second, like we're witnessing what greatness is. Yeah, we're witnessing greatness right now. What is everybody doing? But it took so long, and to just be able to, like, as the older I get, the more impressed I am with people that are able to be comfortable in their own skin. And
exactly.
Just, like, man,
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I love when a person shows how comfortable they are in their own skin. They're unapologetic. They speak, they say what they want to say, but also they try to help better the people around them, by doing whatever they're doing. If it's through the sport they play, without just their actions, or when they have an interview or press conference, whatever, that part. I love it. So, and then 23 single Grand Slams, that's awesome. And I definitely respect it, because we played tennis every now and then. I don't know if you remember, and when Taus was here.
We played it poorly.
Right. And it was just, when I playing that game, yeah, you're right. It's just a mental thing, because you got to figure out, okay, where I'm going to put this ball and how I'm going to get it there, how I'm going to put the spin on it, back spin, front spin, right backhand.
You're way ahead of me, man. I was trying to figure out how not to break the racket. I was so angry.
Speaking. Well, let's change that, Mike. Let's watch out. Let's talk about some of the big matchups that we see coming up to end this show for the first NFL kickoff weekend, man. What's a game that starts off the use with games starting on Thursday Night Football with the Rams and the Bills, and then obviously going all the way to Monday Night Football?
Gosh, I think the Rams-Bills game is going to be huge. I mean, you think about the biggest question with a team like the Rams is there going to be a hangover?
Is it right?
And everybody right now is just anointing the Bills as the team that's coming out of the AFC.
100%. I'm like,
and I honestly don't get that at all. I just don't get it.
I think it's a media thing.
Yeah,
I think they're good too. I think they're very good.
And I think Josh Allen's special, but it's like it's the same thing with the Packers. So you lose Devontae Adams. Like, we're not saying that Devontae Adams wasn't an all-pro Hall of Fame level player. We're saying that you can do this kind of like, I could put like 4 pieces together to kind of get the same thing and have the same kind of stats. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. Some people think some people are trying to say that he's going to be better without him. Well, I don't know if I believe that, but you go, well, listen, I can also see that he has to grow because he doesn't have that outlet. So maybe some other people, step in, the offense changes. He develops something. Dude, do you remember Patrick Mahomes? I think after he won Super Bowl MVP, that next year he was like, hey, I didn't even know how to read defenses last year. Like, I didn't really know what I was, you know what I mean? Like, Brett said that. Like, he didn't know what a nickel defense was for like 2 years. Like, there's revelations with these guys sometimes where like, you have no idea how much further they can get mentally that's going to improve their game dramatically. So like, I think all these, there's
exactly.
opportunities everywhere. Like people are talking about the Saints. I mean, the one thing I'll say about this year that is really exciting is I just don't personally see a clear-cut favorite in the path to the Super Bowl on either side.
No, it's too early to tell. But I'm with you on the bandwagon on what reason or what is the reason why the Bills are going to win the AFC right now, and what's their I mean, they got a good team. Not taking nothing away from them. Great coaching. I know the head coach. I know of the head coach, and he does a good job with those guys. And defensively, we know they got Von Miller now. But what else? I mean, they still got to get there, as we know. But we know how fans work. We know how the media works for us. You know, we kind of like, okay.
It's kind of the same thing though, right? It's like the AFC. You think about it's like our division, right? Like maybe the Dolphins are good, maybe they're not, but the Jets are going to stink.
Unfortunately,
the Patriots
ain't gonna be down.
They're not going to be as good as like the Tom Brady Patriots. Probably everyone's talking about their offensive coordinator, lack of offensive coordinator, whatever.
Yep.
So you can kind of see where you kind of look at the Bills and go, well, it's like they got 6 free wins. You know what I mean? Which I don't know is true. I think the Dolphins are going to show a little bit. I'll be interested to see the Dolphins versus the Pats games this week. I'm really looking forward to all the AFC West games. So the Chargers Raiders game is going to be super interesting to me.
Broncos Seahawks or Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
That's a big game, and then Chiefs Cardinals.
The other one that I think the Eagles are really good.
I think they're sneaky good. I believe they're sneaky really good right now.
Yeah, I mean their roster is
loaded.
I mean,
it's like
they brought Hassan Reddick over to add to that defensive line. Like, dude, Hassan Reddick is no joke, man.
I know they got Devontae, the kid from Alabama that won the Heisman, and a wide receiver right now. He has a coworker, AJ Brown from Tennessee. It's like,
dude, I mean, but their defensive line is I mean, they just got it. It's like if Jalen Hurts who is a leader, apparently the guy's a great leader.
Yes, he was at Alabama. I remember stories coming out of there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if he takes that next step as a quarterback and just is a little bit more consistent with some of those throws in the decision making, I should say, man, I mean, they're best offense. Well, I don't know if they're the best offensive line in the league. They're the best their system is the most quarterback line offense friendly, running back friendly in the league. The way they just stick with the running game, it's even more impressive than like the Titans. Remember the Titans were down in Seattle last year before Henry got hurt, and they're like, I don't care if we're down 17, man, we're gonna run the rock, and they came back and won. The Eagles are unapologetically sold on the running game. I love it. Obviously, as an offensive lineman, they have a great line for it. They have a great system for it. So I'm excited to watch them. I think obviously they're going to beat the Lions, even though the Lions are at home. Everyone's talking about because of the Hard Knock show and everything.
Yeah, I think the Lions going to have a better year than last year. But yeah, this game is going to be tough. I don't think they're going to get the win out of here. That's how I feel about that. Trying to see, but like I said, other than that, big game on Monday night, Broncos Seahawks, like I mentioned, and then Chiefs Cardinals. I see that's going to be an interesting game to watch. Got two dynamic quarterbacks.
What do you think? I would not be shocked if the Cardinals. I wouldn't be shocked. Well, I guess they just gave Kingsbury an extension. I was going to say, like, I wouldn't, given the amount of talent they have, given the way they keep finishing the season.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have been if you would have said like 2 months ago before they extended everybody, because they extended Kime, they extended him, and then Murray. I wouldn't have been shocked if like they're going to blow up after this year because they're not going to have the kind of season they want. It's just when you watch them, some of the things, the body language stuff, and it's just like the way you like when a team continues to fall apart at the end of the year, it's like that's more than one person. Like that's like the organization. That's a systemic problem. So, anyways, it'd be interesting to watch. You're right.
Yeah, another one, and then another one of young quarterbacks or quarterbacks we don't know. We know one is Justin Fields starting with the Bears, but 49ers is it Jimmy G or is it going to be Trey Lance?
Well, yeah, so it's Trey, and there's all this, there's all this talk coming out about, is Trey happy that Jimmy came back and blah blah blah. But it's like, listen, I think it's hard if you start listing quarterbacks in the league. I don't know when you get to Jimmy G. I'm guessing about 15. Okay, if everyone's being honest with like. He's not a bad quarterback, guys. Like, has he made some bad throws? Yeah. Did he miss some opportunities in the Super Bowl and the championship games? Yeah. Is he a better quarterback than, would like 10, 12 teams be really happy with him? Yes. Yeah. Why didn't they trade for him? Because they already have, it's like you have a sunk cost or you have money invested in another quarterback. You have a young draft pick. Like there's reasons that he didn't get the trade offers that he wanted at the end of the season. Plus, by the way, guys, he's coming off a shoulder injury, and I think that shut down a lot of people as well.
You know, I forgot about that. Yeah.
So he's a talented guy. The kid can play. There's a bunch of stuff that came out about, Shanahan was pissed because they didn't see him in the locker room after he signed that deal. He was kind of gone all offseason, like he's not serious about the sport. Maybe that's a problem as well. I don't know. But I'm excited to watch Trey Lance. Like, I don't even care about Jimmy G, but I guess my point is, like, all this talk and stuff is like, let Trey Lance be him. Don't compare him to Jimmy G. They're two different guys, two different games, two different styles. Trey Lance is going to thrive in Shanahan's offense. If for no other reason, then he's super talented. He seems to be like quick on the uptake, and Shanahan's going to scheme it in a way that's going to play to his strengths, but in the position to be successful.
Definitely, like you said, two different quarterbacks. So yeah, that's gonna be good to watch. So there's gonna be a lot of good football this weekend. First opening weekend. So that's what we're gonna wrap up the show on that note. So Mike, let everybody know where they can find you on social.
Mike Wall 68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. AG, thanks for doing another great show, man.
Yeah, no problem. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ahman Green 30. Look me up there, and we'll see everyone next week.